how's it going? My name's Lizzie. Welcome to my channel. And this is another edition of Spooktacular Scary Halloween Stories with me, Lizzie. Just fun stuff I'm doing for the holiday, just this month. I am making these stories up at the top of my head as we go, so please let me know which ones you like and are responding to. Every story is going to be different. Some of them are going to be fantasy, some of them are going to be murder mystery. It just depends on what comes out. If you want to skip now to the story and just hear the story, go to the description box below. I time-stamped when the story starts. If you want to see, because I'm using things I make and tarot and oracle cards, I'm working with Spirit to make a Halloween story for you, basically. So I'm going to tell you what I got quickly, and then I'm going to get right into the story. But skip ahead if you'd like. If not, let's get into it. So I have my traditional one-page cheat sheet. All I do is the names ahead of time, and then I fill in all the details. Like, I barely look at the thing, but I think just writing it out gets my brain in order. It's like an outline, so that's why I actually write it out. I do peek at the names as I go, or maybe look at a detail if I get hung up or two. Like I said, I'm making these up on the fly. I used to do these around campfires with my family when we went camping, or just sit around when we were bored on a stormy day. Like, I was a true 90s kid, like 80s. I was born in 84, so by the time the 90s came, I was like, we played with sticks. Like, we didn't have all these cool gadgets. We had to use our imagination, and I'm just bringing it back because it makes me a better writer, and I just want to entertain you as well. All right, so this one is going to be an interesting story. It's about a lady. Her name is Gertrude Green, and she, it's like a quaint little town. She's a witch. Her family, her mother before her were witches, her aunts were witches, her grandma was a witch, and she has this little shop, and one family member stays in the town and runs it, and sometimes they're good and sometimes they're bad, and Gertrude is not the nicest witch in the history of this town. Gertrude has a lot of hidden agendas, and she's probably one of the most gifted witches. So her whole motto around Gertrude is pay it forward in reverse. So it's like you come to her for help, and she does like spells. This whole story is people who come in to see Gertrude. So Gertrude is like the main character, and the store is called The Brew, and it's in this little, like, I'm picturing like Maine on the coast, really wintry. The tourists are gone. This is just dealing with like local shit, but a big enough place where there's like a mix of wealthy, middle class, and there's like its own little power system. So maybe like a city like Portland, you know. It's not huge, but it's still a city. Anyway, so this is what I got for her. Where are we? So these are my cards that I drew. And then for her, when I drew these first, so it came out healer and alchemist. I'm like, immediately I felt witch. I wasn't sure if she was going to be good or bad. Then I drew these cards, and heart chakra and change your focus came out. So people come to her with matters of the heart, and she kind of judges your heart and what your punishment is. Basically, when you go to Gertrude, you're going to get what you want, but you're most likely dying, or you're paying a heavy consequence, not to ruin it for you. But, you know, you don't want to go to Gertrude. Going to her is not a good idea. If you just go to her shop and you buy something, nothing's going to happen to you. But if you are one of these clients that pay money for you, because all of these characters are pretty shady characters themselves, she deals with people that are coming there to like kill people, and like really, like, she judges your heart. And so she don't like you, you die, pretty much. And the cards I got for the Urban Tarot were the Ace of Discs, Swiftness, and Ruin. So she feels the weight of your soul, pretty much, and she wants you to get your karmic justice and feel the weight or the penalty of your heart. So if your heart is black and you're doing evil, she wants you to feel the weight of that evil. You're going to get that glory. It's going to be short-lived. You're going to be like, yes, Gertrude's the best. I got what I paid for. And then, oh, fuck, Gertrude's the devil. It's too late. So she's going to give you what you want, and you're going to feel the gravity of success. And at the same time, you're going to pay a hefty price. And her spell work is swift and quick. So like when you go and you pay for the spell and you do what she gives you to do, immediate, like there's no take backs, there's no fixing it, there's no stopping it. It happens almost immediately, or overnight. But so does the reverse effect. And yeah, you're always going to end in ruin with Gertrude. Again, these are people that aren't coming into the shop and just like buying a candle or buying some sage or buying a book or talking to her and like being just a regular townsperson. Not like, these are people that are like, Gertrude, I know you have gifts. I want this person dead, or I want to be famous. Like just, But anyway, so her details were lady assassin, pay it forward but in a bad way, which is hence why I made her that way. Mass media trance or brainwashing. There is a reporter that I was going to add into the story that I didn't really, so I'm actually going to take this one out. We'll use it in a different story. See, this is all as we go. And then we have inherited cursed business, which is inherited spiritual shop. She was the one that, she's kind of bitter that she had to stay in, like she had dreams of her own. She wanted to be successful, and she was the one that was selected to live her whole life in this little coastal town and take care of these people who she thinks are shitty fucking people. So she's a little bit bitter. That's why, because she inherited a cursed business. She's cursed to be there. I mean, she can go on vacations, but she can't like fucking leave. She's got to take care of the shop. Anyway, so here's the main characters in the story. We're starting with the most powerful, and he came out first. First of all, his name is Bo Bentley, and he came out as an engineer and a saboteur. So I'm like, okay, powerful businessman, but like the dirty, shady business immediately just felt power asshole. And of course, I wasn't surprised when the Emperor came out. Like, this person is a leader, has money, probably, you know, he is a raper, murderer. He's a dick. Like, this is the lowest of the low. But the community sees him as the golden god. Like, oh my god, he's so successful. He's got all this money. But he did a dirty deed. He actually committed murder earlier before the story takes place. And the case is current and it's in the news. And he's going to Gertrude for help in hiding what he has done. But this character and another character is kind of like the Emperor Empress. His ex-wife and him both go to Gertrude. So this is like a double whammy for Gertrude. So he comes in, this Emperor comes to Gertrude, not only for help me get away with murder pretty much, but also help me stop my ex-wife, who is genuinely, we'll get to her next, a good person, but she just decided not to take his shit anymore, and that's not someone that takes well to someone walking away. So he basically wants vengeance on his wife, but he's on this new kick of like, he's trying to, he basically got a bad rap for doing what he did to his wife. We'll talk more about it when we get to her next. But he did her dirty, and the public sided with the wife. So now here he is trying to clean up his image and get that beloved light back. And it's working. You know, money talks, power talks. You know, he doesn't have a shortage of women, because here's his details. We have DILF. Dad, I'd like to. So he's got a string of young women, always has arm candy. Male ex-husband or ex-mistress. In this case, he's a dirty ex-husband. Lives in a gated property, high level of protection or security. just basically enforcing that he is somebody of stature in the city. And we have man, real estate agent, broker, land developer. That's why I feel like he's business land developer. He actually kills. If he can get away with killing someone just to get property, or like kill them and have them leave him stuff so that he can further. He's all about money. He got to the top by murder. He's like a low-key serial killer. But he's going to be taken out by a cancel culture killer, and I'm not going to give you any more details about that. But let's get into the other character. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say his name? His name is Bo Bentley. And his wife's name is Lainey Bentley / Craig, because, she's trying to shake away from, she still wants the Bentley status, but she's like, I'm a Craig, broke away from that douchebag. So her details were, she's obviously first lady, beloved by the people, ex-girlfriend or wife, so they are divorced already. She's a good co-parent, as in she has all the kids. Like, Bo doesn't really like his fucking kids, and it's we're getting into that soon. But she wants to be a MILF, and this is why she goes to Gertrude. This is the part where Gertrude is tripped up about the conscience, because at first, she comes in as like a woman with a broken heart. Like, I love my husband, because she married, this is how, like, this flipped up to me. I'm not going to use it. I'm going to use it for a different story. But when she comes to Gertrude really believed before, Lainey came to her that she married for love, but remember, she reads your heart. It really is, she married for money. She never really loved Bo, and it was kind of like a cold marriage. So she's asking for like beauty. She's got kids. She's older. Her ex-husband's getting all these young tramps. She wants to be successful in her business. She's launching her own like beauty empire and taking over, and she's making a bunch of money, and she's trying to be seen as a powerhouse in her own right, but she wants to be beautiful. So she goes to Gertrude, pays money for beauty, the perfect body, and for all men to lust after her. But she also wants her husband to fail and lose everything and know how it feels to be rejected, like woman scorned pretty much thing. So that's why she gets judged by Gertrude, and why she doesn't end well either. But her details are mother and pioneer. She is a genuine good mother. She's seen as a good mother, good wife publicly. They don't know, like, even Gertrude was, convinced that she was a good person. That's simply love. Like, Mother of the Year, First Lady, like, it was a shock. Gertrude's like, oh wow, really? This bitch is crazy? Okay, well. We have Crown Chakra that came out for her. This is somebody who feels entitled, feels like her ex-husband owes her something. The community owes her and support. Like, she's turning to the dark side here. So her details is the kindergarten teacher. Again, to me, just focused on the children. Like, the majority of their marriage was focused on kids. But she's building this empire, and she's about to launch her massive product, even though she's making money. Like, it's probably something that started off as like an online business, and now she's launching in like department stores, I'm assuming, and it's great success for her, and she's having a victory. But she's still seen as less than her husband. Still like seen, oh, look at the little woman trying to make something of herself. So she's trying to get out of victim, I'm the scorned woman, and she wants to be seen as the more powerful of the marriage. And she, oh, I didn't do the main one, did I? Oh, anti-age serum, as she came in to look younger and have beauty, but she's taken out by children killers. Remember, she's Mother of the Year. I'm not going to give you any more details, but it all stems back to what her husband went and paid for. Remember, they get what they want. So the husband wanted the wife and the kids out of the picture, so everybody's getting karma in a screwy way in this story. Up next, we have Ginger Graham. This is the girl that Bo killed back in the day that's in the news. So she's kind of a character, but she's a ghost in the actual story. Where is she? Right here. So her details were a female victim, female sorority sister or member. So she died in college age. She was working for Bo's company. She was a good employee. Bo actually liked her at first. I'll save that for a second. Like I said, good employee. Seducing childhood crush for bad reasons, which is leading into our next character, who is Wesley Williams, is the detective in the case that's in the news. He's out for Bo's head. Or I'm sorry, not Bo's head. We have two more characters to talk about, Wesley Williams and Gabe Gerber. And so this detective, Wesley Williams, that's attached to this ghost, is out for Gabe's head, which you'll learn. But anyway, she's taken out in the end by the land developer who kills for money or property, which we all know is Bo. Nobody in the story knows Bo is the killer except Gertrude and Bo. Everybody thinks Gabe Gerber is the killer. We'll get to him. But we have female thief and home invader. She's a female thief. She's like the epitome of a black widow. She herself actually killed her first husband, who is there's another ghost in the story. I'm not going to give the ghost a name because no one ever really picks up in the story that Lainey is an actual killer. They're like, poor Lainey got murdered, but Lainey was actually a murderer too. They don't pick up on it. Only Wesley does, and by then it's too late for Wesley. But anyway, so the ghost of Ginger goes to Gertrude and is like, Bo really killed me. I want him to be caught for my murder. I want everybody to know it's him that killed me, which doesn't end up happening because, of course, Gertrude is the only one that would know that Lainey is the actual killer. So she decides to let unfortunate Gabe, we'll get into that later, but society never really learns that Bo is the killer for her Lainey. But we have seducer and fertility. She seduces you, and mostly she just takes your money. She only killed the one time, and it was out of necessity because he caught her and he was going to turn her into the feds. But at the end of the day, she'll kill you if she's gotta. But she comes off as a victim or a slave because she seduced Gabe and then later accuses him of rape. So they're seeing her as somebody who's a true victim. Her details is opening up and awaiting results. Because she's dead, like the community's awaiting the murder results, awaiting the trial, what's going to happen to Gabe. Remember, she's already dead, but she's a spirit on this earth waiting for Gertrude to make Bo, But she has seducing childhood crush for bad reasons. Before she died, she seduced Wesley, who was a detective who she knew would help frame this Gabe character and maybe help get Bo, because she didn't like Bo either, even though he ends up killing her in the end. It's a whole thing. But yeah, that's Lainey. I'm not going to talk more about her for now. Let's go into Wesley Williams, who's kind of like the hero of the story, the good guy, genuine, noble. His details were detective and rescuer. Lainey is the one that goes to him and is like, oh, I've been raped by my company partner, which she's framing Gabe Gerber for when really she seduced him. She's after his money. Gabe is a big time earner for the company. He makes millions a year. She's setting him up. She knows that Wesley's always been in love with her, had a soft spot, and so unfortunately, Wesley is, in his mind, doing the right thing. He goes to Gertrude for genuine justice. Wesley doesn't get any bad stuff from Gertrude, but Gertrude also doesn't step up to help him either. We'll get into that later. But his details was feeling alone and throat chakra. He's the one that's breaking open the case. Really trying to get this conviction nailed down for Gabe Gerber. It's all over the media. His details were the chariot. He's charging in for justice. He's trying to piece the case together and explain how she died and why. This is, to me, is like judge energy. He's like in the courtroom. The judge is listening to him. He could even be like an expert witness. He's trying to get justice for Lainey, who's dead in the story. His details are male ghost or victim, which is Lainey's first husband that she ended up killing. And then haunted by lover's ex. Toxic relationship, low key, which is he's going to slowly understand the real truth of Lainey through this male ghost. And then he works as a male bouncer for extra money because he kind of loses his cred as a detective, going crazy about Lainey. So anyway, our last character, we have Gabe Gerber. He works for Bo. He makes money. He's like a real estate broker. So Bo finds out about Lainey and ends up killing her because of this whole event. So let's start back with Lainey. Lainey decides this Gabe Gerber is the mark. She gets a job at this company. She's casing all the top earners. He's single. He's typical playboy. He'd be easy to manipulate and get to marry. But at the end, she just wants the money quicker. So she decides to go with the classic. He raped me. I'm going to sue for money. We don't like shit. But her details is, yes, she's a trickster. She's always been. Every person, she's been married multiple times. Everybody just sees her as this woman who's had bad luck in love when she really is a fucking black widow. But her details are indulgence, change, and virtue. Like, she wasn't a good person. She was actually a lost, a drunk. But now that she's dead, everyone's like, oh, we need change for Lainey. She was a good person. But really, she wasn't. And we have third eye chakra and healing begins. This is, to me, was the detail of Gertrude seeing the truth that she's actually a murderer and actually getting justice for this ghost that's attached to Wesley Williams. And she actually, out of everybody, Wesley gets the shit end of the stick, but the ghost that's haunting him does not. And I won't tell you anymore, but Gabe's detail is scary. Oh, no, wrong one. Late night home invader, falsely accused, which is falsely accused of the rape, paying off a judge or person to get out of trouble or a crime, which is why he gets karmic justice from Gertrude. He goes to Gertrude for help getting justice, but he's also paying money to the judge, so Gertrude's like, oh, he's a shady character paying for justice even though he's innocent. If he really wanted to do things the right way, he wouldn't be, whatever. But Ginger paints it as she goes on a date with him, he gets rough, no means no, he didn't take no, and broke into her apartment and raped her. Because we have Mal one night stand, which is actually what happened. He just had a one night stand. It was consensual sex. But the reason why Bo kind of lets Gabe take the fall, one, he needs someone to fall for Lainey, and two, Gabe has seen Bo's mask slip a few times, and Bo, in his mind, was feeling like Gabe was catching on to his extracurricular activities and was a threat. So he needed Gabe out anyway. But we have Mal, assaultant, robber, invader, rapist, which is what Ginger paints him as, somebody who breaks into her house and rapes her. So anyway, let's get into it, shall we? I'm going to get a drink, timestamp it, and I'll be right with you. Hi there, my name's Lindsay, and welcome to the next edition of the Chronic Witch Hunt Trials. So, we're digging into this new case, takes place in Portland, Maine, and we are looking at suspect number 1, Gertrude Green, who is currently under suspect in our underground world of being one of the highest ranking modern day witches. And if she's found convicted, we might move in and strike. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about Gertrude Green and her little shop in Portland, Maine called The Brew. Now, of course, we all do our research. I wouldn't be here if there wasn't a story behind the brew. The brew actually is the only business in Portland, Maine that never, ever changed its name. It's been the brew since the original structure was built in 1906 and stands currently today. It isn't changed much over time. They do upgrade it. Of course, you're going to have to upgrade it as time goes, but they haven't changed much about the building, and I just thought it was unique that one, the name never changed. The paint color never changed, and it always stays in the same family. You can literally trace back Gertrude Green's entire family line from immigrating to this country, the United States, from wherever you're watching, by the way. They have owned this property, the brew, and one person from every generation seems to stay in this town, raise a family in this town, run the store, and then one of their offspring, like there is without fail one person who seemingly stays and mans the ship. Which gets even weirder is after the certain age, which surprisingly is always between the age of 21 and 23, the rest of the family seemingly disappear, never to return to Portland again. They don't come to visit for holidays. People have been known to come in the shop and ask about people who grew up there. Now, I don't know. I haven't spoken to them since they left, and no details are given. All of the people that stem from this Green family do eventually make our list. So, it is plausible to say that all of the females in this Green line are in fact witches, and Gertrude Green was the one selected to now run the brew for this generation. Let's dig in a little bit about Gertrude. Currently, today, Gertrude is approximately 32 years old. She's newly married. As of today, there is news that she is pregnant. So in her line, she is starting, as her duty is, her offspring for someone to take over the brew when she retires. It's like clockwork with this family. They all seem to get pregnant around the same time. They all seem to get married, always seemingly in the 30s. Later, when people kind of think they're going to be spinsters, and then all of a sudden someone comes into their life, they have a couple kids. The husbands never seem to last long. I'm not going to lie, most of the husbands die. Their deaths range from accidents from working around the house, accidents at their job, mysterious illnesses, or they just straight up leave and don't come back. Some of them are just listed as missing people, that no bodies are found. No one really digs into it. It's very weird. So I believe, in my opinion, they just collect somebody because they need offspring to create the brew, and they need specific, or a caretaker for the brew, if you will. Again, this is all speculation. We are under investigation. Let's get into the story of why Gertrude is considered one of the most powerful witches, and one we need to be watching in this underground world we live in. So Gertrude, like I said, runs the store and seemingly runs it pretty normally. Modern witch, makes her own products, sells good. I've tested most of the products. None of them are malicious. None of them have any bad tricks, nothing that's going to do anything bad. Seemingly walking into the store, Gertrude is a green thumb, natural light witch, and oh, it's safe here. All seems well. However, Gertrude has always been a bit more about money and success than the rest of her previous family members. Gertrude had dreams of her own. She wanted to be rich and famous. She always wanted to dress well, designer clothes, designer hands. She wanted it all. And Gertrude, as well as she was doing in the shop with the tourist season, it just wasn't enough. So, of course, Gertrude, with the natural talents that she does, people who grew up with her, natural witches, they don't always know how to contain their magic. I'm sure she slipped, and people, began to talk that Gertrude had some gifts. You don't have to go to the town long enough to hear that Gertrude is the real deal. And if at any time you ever may need something, you should go see Gertrude, whether it be about money, career, love, she can help you out with a little extra side cash. My point is, she has a back room, and in this back room, many things are discussed, and strange things have been happening around the brew, hence why she is on our lookout list. Let's get into the first mysterious case file, and going back the furthest that we can go with Miss Gertrude, as far as her leaving any kind of trail connecting back to the brew that we can connect, which is Miss Lainey Bentley. I'm sorry, Miss Ginger Graham. I'm getting ahead of myself. There's a lot of characters in this mysterious bundle, so try to keep up with me. It's going to be this is one of the most complicated cases I have ever seen. It's going to be interesting, but keep up is what I'm trying to say. So let's talk about Ginger Graham. You've heard her name all over the news. Her trial is currently going right now. They found her body, poor Lainey, raped and murdered in her apartment. And Gabe Gerber is pretty much at the point of getting the death sentence verdict. We're waiting on that as we speak. The countdown at the bottom of your TV is probably still ticking down at this moment. So everybody knows a lot about Ginger. I don't have to dig too much into it. But for those who don't, Ginger Graham was this lovely girl who came to Portland for college, just like many other people. She wanted to be an artist. However, she wasn't very good about going to class and didn't last very long. She ended up getting a job at a big firm, which is other big characters were getting into the town of Portland. And all these shady characters. She's attached to another character we're going to be talking about, Bo Bentley, who runs this big development real estate firm in Portland, making a lot of money there, seemingly doing well for herself, moves to a good area, a safe area, so it's shocking, that a middle-aged white woman in her apartment is found brutally murdered and raped, and nobody, the cameras, surveillance didn't catch anything. It's like, oh my God, that's why it's all over the news. They pick and choose what cases they run with, and Ginger Graham is a perfect case to run with. However, Ginger Graham has some dirty little secrets that us in the underground world know that the media will not, all stemming back to Gertrude Green. Now, Ginger Graham is known, when she was alive, to be a frequent shopgoer of the brew. She loved it. She loved the face cream. She had a connection with Gertrude. She was known to be chatting it up with her. She was seen to go in this mysterious back room several times. Now that she's deceased, it is said to be believed that Ginger was dealing with harassment by Gabe at work, and she might have gone to Gertrude for help and protection from this Gabe character. So it is speculated that Ginger Graham came to the brew, Gertrude Green. She was too afraid to go to the police because, Gabe Gerber is a powerful person. She works for the firm. She knows how that elite world works, and she just wanted somebody to help her and listen, and Gertrude did. Seemingly gave her crystals and things that would keep her protected to put her on herself around work and in her home, which apparently didn't seem to work very much. Gertrude, again, this is where we dig into Ginger a bit more. Ginger, like we've seen in the press coverage, this is the part that has leaked in, she's been married a few times, and she's lucked out a few times on those alimony payments and all the things that she's inherited. And a couple of those husbands have mysteriously vanished, never to be seen again, hence a little bit like the brew in the family. And a couple of them had died. Like, she's been married a few times. I think it was like 8 the last time I read. But, I'm not quite sure what is speculation and what is fact. All I know is she's got a trail of, behind her. And I don't believe in coincidences here in our underground network. And I think Ginger Graham has always been a shady character. And Gertrude, being as gifted as she is with insight, she probably caught on to Ginger Graham rather quickly. Now, this is my suspect or my suspicious feeling about Gertrude. I think Gertrude will be happy to take your money, but I think she's very, very happy to fuck with you as well. And what are you going to do about it? You're going to go to the police and be like, I paid Gertrude to do a spell and she didn't do it? People are going to think you're crazy. She's in the perfect position to cat and mouse you, and I think she does quite frequently. And I think Ginger was very much an entertainment factor for very bored Gertrude in a town she didn't want to be in the first place. I just feel like she didn't want to be selected, and she's just acting out as a witch. Again, all speculation. I haven't proven it yet. So, here we are, sorority girl who wasn't turned out very good at being a sorority. She also didn't show up for meetings. She didn't have much of a connection to any of the other girls. Again, she only used the platform of the sorority to meet the more rich frat guys who would date her and buy her things and get the clothes she wanted. It was all about leverage with Ginger. And I think that there is a little bit of truth about what Gabe is saying. But that's, again, my opinion. For now, we're going to put Ginger Graham on the shelf. There's more to discuss about Ginger. She's attached to more than one person we are discussing. For right now, I need to venture and we need to talk about the big players and where Gertrude is being most exposed with her gifts. So, let's talk about the king and queen of Portland, which is Bo Bentley and his former ex-wife, or his former wife, now ex-wife, Lainey Bentley, now known as Lainey Bentley Craig. That's a mouthful, right? But you have to put the Craig in there. She says it every other sentence on every news coverage on there that we have of her. She wanted to know that she put the Craig back on her name and all of her kids' names too, by the way, which Bo never fought. We'll get to that later as well. Let's talk about Bo first. Bo is the typical swinging dick of Portland, I'm not going to lie. He's known to have a slew of mistresses. He's known for not being faithful. He's like the Tiger Woods of the real estate. Like, got caught, like, oh my god, what a dirty. No offense to Tiger Woods out there, but, he's kind of the first big sex scandal that blew the roof off of everybody. So Bo is going through a very big sex scandal. He's trying to clean up his image at this time. We all know that Lainey is looked at as the one who was the dutiful wife. She rode with him through the top. She was there when he sold his first house, and they had this first dollar they made framed on their, they were the couple that made everyone want to, you know what I mean? So it's rather shocking when their divorce happened and the truth started coming out about how Bo is kind of like a shit father, shit husband, a chauvinist, doesn't really care. And just, through the whole divorce process of about how Lainey had to just fight for her, original crappy house that she didn't even want. Even Bo was trying to, nickel and dime her all the way to the end, but she ended up coming out on top. She got the biggest alimony payday ever in the history of Portland, and child support payments to boot. Lainey made out. She got the house she wanted. She got everything she wanted. The community, the judge, they all sided with her. Bo was exposed as a shitty husband, a shitty father, and nobody should have to tolerate that. Mental abuse, the whole nine. So here's Bo on top. As far as business, he runs Portland. He built it. You can't get anywhere without Bo. So, shit is quickly shoved under the rugs. Unfortunately, that's the way the power turns in this world. So Lainey goes to Gertrude on record about, the time the divorce is taking off. She's seen going into the shop a lot typical woman who, her world was shaken up. As far as she knew, her husband loved her. I think she was aware of the affairs, but she was in denial. I think she thought that they were meaningless to her husband and that he actually loved her, and it was just about a physical thing. Because, she gave birth to 4 kids. She doesn't have her figure anymore. She let herself go, which she openly admitted in a few of the interviews. Again, we only have stuff when she was alive to watch, and Bo as well. So, like, everything is pieced together. We can't sit down and talk to them now. Again, this is all part of the trial that is splashed all over your TV, so I don't need to brush too much into it, but I want to brush enough in case you haven't been keeping up. So anyway, she goes to Gertrude. She wants to look beautiful. She wants to be young. Her husband is hot, handsome, perfect body. He gets 19-year-old supermodels. She wants to be a MILF. Her husband's a DILF. She wants to be a MILF. She wants to look good. She wants men fawning all over her. She wants her, she's launching at the time of her untimely death. She just launched into like every major department store with her makeup. She was making big money. She was making a name for herself. She was being a powerhouse in her own right in Portland. People were rooting for her. She was on top. Lainey was winning. So again, it's very shocking, the horrible tragedy. I don't even know if I can process what happened to Lainey, and we're gonna definitely get into that, as is it. That is its own trial as well, that just wrapped up and is still fresh in the news, relating back to Bo. Of course, when the murder of Lainey and everything happened, Bo was quickly picked up and released. He was found innocent. He was not attached to anything that went down. He was not on the property or in the premises, so he was vindicated before his death as well. But around the time of the divorce, Bo is also seen going into Gertrude's office at the brew, and it is speculated that Bo really wanted his reputation restored. Although he was king of business, he was losing business, he was losing respect because of what happened, and he, like I said, doesn't like women who walk away from them. He always thought Lainey would just tolerate his bullshit. He never thought that she would leave with the kids, and there's speculation that he actually wanted her dead and the kids dead because he didn't want to pay out all the money. He's a greedy motherfucker. He only cares about money. So I think that Bo, he was judged by Gertrude as the true character he was. I think that Bo had something to do with Ginger, and she also saw that too, because there were some clues that was left in the evidence that does place Bo in the apartment of Ginger the night she was found, that should have been brought in the trial, that should have been discussed, and it never was. It never even seemingly got brought up. Like, it was just brushed over by everyone, and I feel like Gertrude might have been in some way doing an invisibility cloak. Bo was probably paying her to cover any involvement with Ginger's murder, because he's got the trial of his own wife's murder going on. He doesn't want to be attached to Ginger's murder as well. There's several times of Bo going in there before Lainey died, around the time when Ginger was going in there. It's like Bo also is related back to the brew very far, almost as far as Ginger as a known customer, and so is Lainey. These are all repeat customers. These are somebody Gertrude knows well and for several years. So for them to be dead in the way they did in the times they did, it's just very, very strange, and why I feel like Gertrude has turned to the dark side and there's no going back. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, here in the underground, we believe that Bo is actually the murderer of Ginger Graham, because I think that Bo caught on to the fact that she was seducing men for money and had seduced Gabe. And Gabe was a partner in his firm, and his firm was catching heat as Gabe being a rapist and hounding her at work and like all this stuff. So it's making his company look bad. So I think he initially caught on to Ginger when she falsely accused Gabe Gerber of raping her, and I think that was the point where Bo decided that Ginger and Gabe needed to go, and I think he went to Gertrude for help. So, again, all speculation, nothing proven. But to understand a little bit more about what happened to Bo, we need to look at Lainey. So, sorry, people are talking. So we'll start from the divorce when it was announced that they were separating, and Bo's, true existence was exposed of just being like a pig. So you have Lainey going into the shop, and again, not to body shame anyone, she's heavier set, curvy, looking her age, which is almost, mid 40s, not like it's old, but she's looking her age. And by the time the trial comes, she looks about 20 years younger, and she, has that perfect body. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a doctor, but that's pretty spectacular to have accomplished that in such a short time. I think she went for a glamour smell from Gertrude Green at the brew. So I'm dating her first. There is when she started working. So that's when Lainey, she's looking good. She starts getting attention. She, of course, is kicking ass through the trial. And through the trial, she announces, "Oh, I'm launching my beauty company." And she uses the trial to promote that. And through the trial, her online sales are going up and going up and going up and going up every day. It's like incredible how much. And she's like selling out. And she is a name, and she is in the press, but she's not like worldwide known. Portland is kind of like her hub. So I think, again, she went to Gertrude for a little help with the business as well. So I'm stemming that down in her timeline. So she got her dream body. She's looking younger. She's got her business, her empire. She got her alimony, her child support, everything she wanted. The community is, everything's ticking ahead for Lainey. And then, right as she's on top and she's like in the stores, the tragedy happens out of nowhere. And this is the part of the, like, even now we all pause and we think about a mother who is a really good mother who spent their life dedicated to their children, and her children were 12, 10, and 8, and 6. 2 boys, 2 girls. To be murdered by your own children brutally, like they all took turns with knives, like random knives from the kitchen, and she was found in the kitchen, with 4 knives, and there was 4 clear sets of prints. And then the kids were found in the living room and all in comas, and they all died in the hospital 3 days later. All they have is the surveillance video of, Lainey just making dinner. Everything's seemingly normal. The kids are kind of off in the corner. 2 of them are at the kitchen table doing homework. The other 2 are playing with blocks. Or maybe it was like a 3D puzzle, could have been. It's grainy. And then all of a sudden, the kids all just stop and then look at her. And they just go in and they just pull out the drawer, and it happens, and there's no explanation for any of it. To this day, even through the trial, there's no history of any of the kids acting out in school, having any kind of mental breakdown. They were all good students. They all had friends. There was no social awkwardness. There was no reports of abuse of any kind. There was no arguing at all during the day on the footage. I think they could only go back 24 hours on the house. Like, everything was normal and fine. Like, what the happened there? I think that was Gertrude. And remember what I said about Bo, and I believe that he went there. He only cares about money. He didn't want to pay all that alimony. He didn't want to pay child support. I think that was what he paid for coming forward, and the karmic justice for him was the one thing that his wife Lainey loved the most, and what she kind of despised her for, which even proves how much more of a grimy person Bo is, that he was jealous that his wife loved their children more than him. He was like a little bit butthurt about that, always, about how good of a mother she was, when usually it's supposed to be the other way around. So in the underground, we think that's what really happened there. And there's a million speculations as what happened, why the kids did it. But we think, again, not proven just yet, but that's our speculation. And unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever know why the kids, there was no medical explanation as why they were in comas. It's just a very weird thing. And it all stems back to the brew and Gertrude. And why would she seemingly hurt innocent children? And Lainey, who was seemingly innocent, but maybe she wasn't. Because I think Lainey was a little bit like Ginger. If you date back, Lainey didn't have as big of a footprint as being a gold digger as Ginger. But Lainey has evidence of just dating for status as well. And she also started in the company as a secretary. I think she seduced Bo. I think Bo has, that standard cliche of falling for sexy little secretaries, and it worked for her and it worked for Ginger. So I think that perhaps Gertrude might have learned a little bit more about Lainey as well. Either way, Bo kills Ginger physically and lets Gabe take the fall, and then Bo through magic kills his wife and kids. So we're not rooting for Bo at this point, are we? So I'm not really sad at this point to find out what happened to Bo. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go back to Gabe Gerber. Gabe Gerber, I'm sorry. As much as I feel bad for what happened to him, he is the typical American douchebag. Like, he womanizer, chauvinistic, old school. He didn't want the lady to work. He had a type. He didn't treat his female staff well. Just no respect for women. So I think that's another reason why Ginger, he was known for having no respect for women, being short and intimidating to women, so it wouldn't be hard to paint him as a rapist or to seduce him, because he probably had a type too. So Ginger, played right into that hand, and Gabe's reputation didn't help him. He did, until the very end, claim that he was innocent. I really think he was. I don't think he ever raped Ginger. I think it was definitely consensual and a setup. Like I said, she's a money hungry. As much as I don't like to paint women like that, when it's true, and you gotta own it. And she definitely was somebody who was crying wolf about what happened. It just doesn't, there was no rape kit done. There was no videos or pictures of bruises. Not that you need that to happen, but for somebody who is so loud about it, there really is and never was any really proof to back up what Gabe did. But because she was dead, and he was in her apartment, probably the last one, she probably didn't change the sheets, which is gross. Bad timing on Gabe's part for being the last person in her bed, last person to share her apartment before she, unfortunately, in my opinion, got taken out by Bo. So Bo, needed to save his company, because the the press coverage of Gabe and using work wasn't good. He needed to separate himself from that. Gabe was a friend. I think Bo probably felt bad, but, Gabe did go to Gertrude for help as well. He's seen going into the brew. He's probably like trying to, help me. I don't want to go to prison. Why she didn't help him, I'm not really sure. I'm sure it stems back to maybe he really was a rapist before and he didn't get caught. In my own personal opinion, I did look into his high school transcript, and there was a discussion with a cheerleader on his football team in his sophomore year, and there was an incident in his senior year again with another cheerleader. So I think that Gabe Gerber probably was a pig, and he probably did hurt women and got away with it. And I think Gertrude just expedited the process because it's like, although you didn't do this one, you did those ones. So you got to go down for one of those. Probably why. And Bo paid money he needed to get his wishes granted before she got her hooks in. She waited for Bo. I think she wanted Bo to suffer more than everyone. So anyway, Gabe Gerber currently on trial. What's going to happen to him, we don't know. We don't know if anyone's ever going to, in the real 3D, ever going to figure out what Bo really did and that Bo was the killer. We're hoping. But I think, in my opinion, Gabe Gerber is probably going to get the death penalty for a murder he didn't commit. But I do think he is a rapist. So should I be sorry about that? Probably. I don't think anyone deserves to die, but still. What will happen to Gabe? We don't know. Still pending. We're waiting for that verdict. And he's one of that actually lived through this story, so at least he's got that going for him, even though he was set up and used. Let's go to Wesley Williams. Wesley Williams, you've seen him all over the news as well. He's the lead detective that, found Lainey, and then it was later brought in that he had a sexual relation. I'm sorry, not Lainey. Ginger. He's the one that found Ginger. Ginger's the one that was the sorority one secretary found in her apartment. Anyway, he's the detective, Wesley Williams, who was found to have a relationship with her, but kept it quiet during most of the trial. There's speculation that he might have planted evidence to get Gabe, but he is out for Gabe's head. He's the main reason why they arrested Gabe, and why most of the trial was pretty easy to paint Gabe as the killer. But if you dig in, like we digging on the underworld, Wesley Williams and Ginger Graham are from the same town. They went to the same high school together. It isn't a big secret that Wesley Williams grew up fantasizing about Ginger. She was a popular girl. She was pretty. He always wanted to be with her. They always had us, like, I wouldn't say best friends, but they were friendly with each other. They kept in touch. I think that she seduced Wesley because around the time of the death, they were dating, which is all exposed in the trial. So I think she used Wesley to help paint Gabe as the rapist she needed him to be, to get the money. I don't think she ever cared about Wesley Williams, which is really sad considering what actually happened to him in our opinion. But let's dig into Wesley. So let's go back to when we all met Wesley, because Wesley wasn't a big cat in Portland. He wasn't well known. He was just an average detective. He worked part-time as security. He only came up famous as, being the detective that was working the case of the girl that was found in the safe neighborhood, Ginger, So this is when he comes onto the scene. At this time, he's very professional, well-spoken, dressing nothing designer, like nothing extra straight, And then you get to the trial, and he's very flamboyant and openly gay. I mean, I guess he could have always been gay, but if you look into Ginger's first husband, there was speculation that the relationship fell apart because he was secretly gay, and he used ginger as a beard, which, that being her first marriage, even though she was probably using him, was probably a deflate to her ego. So we think, based upon the characteristics and the video footage of the original first husband in the wedding photo and the actions of Wesley now, I think that what actually happened was Gertrude learned the truth that you have to understand Wesley. Wesley grew up a foster kid. He grew up in a boys' home, but his parents and his 4 siblings were killed in a very suspicious house fire. It was ruled that the rooms were all locked and they couldn't get out, and there was a trail of gasoline, and nobody was found on the scene except for Wesley. This happened when he was 8. So perhaps Gertrude learned the truth that Wesley actually became a detective because he was probably a little serial killer and then grew up and couldn't live with what he'd done. Or maybe he's always been a serial killer. Maybe he's the one that actually killed Ginger. We don't know. But I think this is a body snatch situation. I think that Gertrude took somebody whose life ended and who was genuinely innocent and put them in a murderer and took the murderer's soul out. I can't explain it, but that's what we are looking into. It's crazy, the complete difference between Wesley Williams, detective on the scene, to the first day of trial. It's like, hold up. What? You don't grow an alter ego like that in 2 days. And your whole life doesn't change like that in 2 days. So this is why we're investigating Gabe. And he's probably the last link we have to connect any magic back to Gertrude, because most of these players are dead. Let's go back to Bo Bentley to wrap the story up in this case. Because, hey, I'm sure you all have much to do and more cases of your own to work on. So Bo, he seemingly got what he wanted. His wife and children were gone. He got to keep his money. The sympathy turned back to him. He was vindicated of his crime. Like, oh my God, this poor man, painted as a killer, and he wasn't even there. And then, he's got this whole thing with his company, and this murderer, Gabe, maybe killed his wife. Like, oh my God, he's set up like poor Bo. He's on top, though. Business is booming. He's got popularity back on his side. Women arm candy. Bo's like, yes, I have done it. But then, last week, we're all, eating our Cheerios. Life is spinning on. We're turning on the news, expecting to hear something about this amazing trial that everybody's obsessed with right now. But no, you hear that, surprise, surprise, Bo was found dead in his office, seemingly murdered by his secretary. Which also, I don't mean to laugh, but how cliche. You got caught up in all these scandals, and your repeat patterns, as all this is going down, as your world is going back to normal, you're having another secret affair with a woman that you're using and probably abusing and treating like shit through this whole trial, and she snaps and kills you. So maybe that was karmic justice from Gertrude, or maybe that was just universal karmic justice. Either way, Bo Bentley got taken out and on his throne by the one thing he despised most, women who worked for him. So I think at the end of the day, whether Gertrude had a part of that or not, that was just meant to happen to Bo. He's like the worst person I ever did a case on. I'm not gonna lie. Bo Bentley is the biggest dick who ever walked this earth, and I'm not sorry to say that, even though he's dead. Anyway, I don't know what's going to happen with Gertrude Green and the Brute, but we are watching, and we are watching intently. And every move she makes, we are on it. And if it is proven that she has gone to the dark side, as we had called it, well, back to Salem we go for another trial. See you all next time. I hope you like this. If you like this one, by the way, this is not real. This is the end of the story. I just, was being a low-key witch hunter. I don't know what kind of character I was going with there, but try to say it in a different way instead of just saying a scary story. But it's not real. Hashtag fake news. I hope you liked it. If you did, if you want more of these spooktacular stories all October, I will keep doing them. I love doing these. I'm probably just doing them for myself at this point, but I don't care. I hope you're entertained. Anyway, love and light, everyone. Bye. Happy Halloween.